Hello there, hello there, hello there. My name is HW. Thank you so much for listening to the Tone Junkie podcast. This is episode, what is it? Well, thank you for listening, and thank you for watching the Tone Junkie podcast. If you're watching the video edition on the YouTube channel here. And I'm just going to start putting all these podcasts on the main YouTube channel, because why not? And 2021 is going to be, it's the year of a lot of things, but it's the year the podcast really comes back in full force. And I want to talk about that on the show today, because 2019 was such a big year for the podcast. It really came into its own. 2020 started off strong. We had a lot of disruptions in the podcast, but here we are. And this is on the Ask HW desk, and you're going to be seeing the Ask HW show real shortly, just in a day or two here. I'm drinking a new blend. For those of you who watch podcasts or listen to the podcast, know I usually enjoy a coffee beverage, and it's actually Tone Junkie coffee. No, I'm just kidding. It's not Tone Junkie coffee. It is a Keurig dark roast from Kroger. Not my normal thing, but it's what they had in the drawer upstairs. And by they, I mean my wife. It's what she had put in the drawer upstairs, and it's fine. But I added a little keto creamer, which is some MCT oil, some coconut, like a pre-done keto creamer, and then a little shot of stevia. And, well, that's as good as any sugar-free coffee I've ever had, because I'm back on the keto train, because this is a year. I'm done with 2020. See you later, COVID. You can kiss my ass. I mean, excuse my French. It's just, seriously. I am so done with last year, and I really had some time to reflect, and there were some reasons why I wasn't doing the podcast, and I've been just addressing them. I've been sitting down and talking with someone, and it really helped me just get to the root of the issue of why I stopped doing the podcast so much. And we'll get into that. But first, I do have a guitar-related topic for the day that I really want to get into. But first, before that, and before the little podcast sort of breakdown of how we got where we are, I had an experience. I went to the Tesla dealership. Some of you might have seen on my personal Instagram. By the way, if you catch me on Instagram, follow the Tone Junkie channel. I'm not the Tone Junkie Instagram. I'm like not active on my personal one, but every now and then my wife will tag me in a story, and I'll just share it to my story because it's one button. Or my kids will do a funny face, and I'll post a photo. But I mean like once a month. Facebook, I'm kind of more active on my personal thing. I'll add you on Facebook. My private Instagram, if I don't accept you, and I apologize to those people, but I'm now one of those people on Instagram that has 1,000 requests to follow me on Instagram, and I haven't said yes to like any of them. And I already have, way more people following me on Instagram than I follow there. I guess that's a weird humble brag, but it is the way it is. It's only because I'm really, on my personal Instagram, it's just like pictures of my kids. And I only haven't really been doing that just for like my mom. I'm really not putting anything thoughtful. I put almost nothing up there. I think one time I saw an armadillo when we were like going on a walk. I took a picture of that, and a dead bird. So all that to say, you're really not missing much. If I haven't approved you on Instagram, you're not missing much. But the Tone Junkie Instagram, that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. So I recently had this experience. My wife and I were thinking about maybe replacing the other car. We have a Toyota Sienna. It's a little older. And it's right at that point where it's like, we might just keep it and just keep running it. And we could, and it's fine, and it's paid off, and, what's the point of getting something else? But have you seen the Tesla Model Y? Am I right? Okay. So, we go down to the dealership. Now listen, for those of you who are unaware, you know that like that clip in what's the show with Ron from Parks and Rec. Where he walks into the hardware store and the guy's like, "Hi, welcome." And he goes, "I know more than you." Okay, that is that's the joke, right? And we all joke that like we go into Guitar Center and it's like, "Hey, what are you looking for today? I got this new Digitech multi effects." Like, I know more than you. Just please. Well, I started thinking they should really have a box or something you check, or just a code word, a way to greet someone that tells the person whose job it is to help you at a store, "I already know everything about this product," or "I am very knowledgeable about this product," so that for their sake and yours, you can fast track and just get to the point where I don't need to tell you, so they know I don't need to tell you about basic product knowledge. I don't need to tell you, well, the Tesla is an electric car. No, I don't. I already know. Okay. So we get into this thing because I tell the guy, and I tried to communicate this in a polite way because you know what's going to happen. The guy goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" Now it's snowing outside, and we're there at 9:59. Okay, so we're there right when it opens. It opens at 10. It's snowing outside. Almost all the cars have snow on them. They've been parked outside, and some of the cars look like they've been turned on with the apps for climate control. So some of the cars, I can see the snow is actually melting on the windows and on the roof because the climate control has been turned on before they opened up. And with the Teslas, you can just leave the climate control on forever. It takes a long, long time, even heating the seats and doing the heat to really drain a battery down. So I go in there and he says, "Hey, how you doing? Good morning. Snow enough for you?" It's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Um, Hey, we want to check out some Model Ys." And he goes, "Yeah, you just want to look in one, or you want to test drive one?" And I said, "We'd love to test drive one." And he said, "Well, we can't go with you because of all the COVID stuff." And he said, "But we can show you, we can kind of give you the run through, and then we can let you take it." And I said, "Well, that's our Model 3 right there." And I had parked right in front. And I said, "We've been Model 3 owners for almost 2 years. And, you know, I think we're pretty familiar. I think the Y's going to feel right at home." The guy's like, "All right, well, let me scan your license." So he used his little scanner. He scanned the back of the license and said, "All right, you guys take the car out. It's that red one right there. I'll walk out there with you, but the climate control's on and you can take it." So my wife and I, we get in the car and we get going. We go get some food. And we're checking out the car. We're talking about it, and we really need a 7-seater, right? Sorry, let me back up. Before we took the car, my wife said, "Let me see the back real quick before we take it out." So she looks because I want the 7-seat option and she wants it too. And I know they just put the option on the website. And if they put it on the website, that means you can order the car with it. But if they don't have it in stock, you have to wait for it to be built. So when you add the 7-seat option, it says wait time is 4 to 6 weeks for them to deliver the car to you because they have to build them. They literally just said, "We're now building 7-seaters." So there's none that are sitting there at the quote unquote dealership. It's really not even a dealership; it's a showroom. Um, so the guy says, he says, "Yeah, it's kind of tight, but they're fitting them in here, and it opens up." And I said, "Yeah." I said, we drove an X one time, and it was tight back there in the third row. But as long as it's not smaller than that, I think we'd go for it. And my wife said, "Yeah, it looks like there's not going to be any room for legs or anything." And I said, "Well, when you do want to use the third row, the middle row slides forward." And the guy goes, "Well, actually, no, the middle row doesn't slide forward; it's fixed." It was at this moment that I realized I had to be that guy. I had to be that guy who, my wife was asking the question, but we were now those people who came in and were asking questions we knew the answer to. And then we were going to argue with the salespeople about what the answer was. So I apologize. But I said, actually, on the 7-seat model, they're actually putting the seat on an assembly that rides on tracks. So it goes forward and back. He was like, I'll have to look into that. Let me go ask somebody in the back. And I tried to then say, maybe I was saying too much. I said, think about it. And I pointed to the car. I said, this seat folds forward, but you can't step in the car. You can't step on the floor. You have to step into this car and step on the folded center seat, the middle row, to get into the back. And I said, so they have to make it slide forward so that you can get in the car. And he said, where'd you see this? And I said, you know, Electrek. They just had a video come out. I just saw it this morning, actually. And he said, Electrek. It was at that moment I also knew, too, that this man is clearly not following the EV blog scene. Because if you're not following Inside EV or Teslarati or Electrek, you're not in the EV, blog community. And the fact that he hadn't heard of it, I was about to be like, dude, let me blow your mind. Because everything's breaking on these blogs before it's getting the official nod from Tesla or NIO or Lucid or anybody. The ID3 from Volkswagen. So anyway, all that to say, I was that guy. I apologize, but it just made me think there needs to be a code word. Like, can I walk in and say, hello, are you also a nephew of Papa Elon? And he can say, hello, sir. And no, or he can say, yes, cousin, I am. Or I can say, my uncle owns the place. Wink. And then he knows, all right, this is like a fanboy, okay? This is like the guy who's walking in going, why don't they ever set their tasers to stun in Star Wars like they do in Star Trek? Like, no one's going to ask that. Like, that's the guy who doesn't know anything, right? Then the tasers were first invented on the third moon from Naboo, which was revealed in the extended universe plot of, you know what I'm saying? All right, segment 2 of the podcast. Enough of that. I recently went back, and a lot of people have been asking, HW, why haven't you been doing the Tone Junkie podcast? And I really, as I actually went, I started doing counseling a couple months ago, because just some things came up for me, with just thinking patterns that I didn't think were good. And, some past experiences and stuff. Anyway, so I started talking to this lady once a week, and it's been really helpful. I really recommend counseling for everybody. I think everybody should be in counseling now. Our thinking is just stovepiped, and sometimes you just need someone to say the things that you're not thinking, or to just call out the obvious, the things you can't see because you have the emotion about it. So I went to, I went back and I listened to some old episodes of the podcast, and I realized, wow, this guy has a great perspective. This guy is just saying things that I absolutely love. And I recall that a couple people recently, it started with a couple people repeating something to me that I had told them a year ago or so. And it was stuff like, in God's economy, generosity is the forgotten principle. And it made me think, have I been generous? Now, to be transparent with you, I could define generosity in a couple ways. Have I been generous? Well, I have set up, giving for me on an automatic basis. And I've modified the amount as I've been capable to give more over time. So I don't feel like anything's changed with generosity with me in the last year with COVID or in recent time. To me, it's not even something I think about. It's just You know, money comes out for investments and for giving. And that's just always, that's just how I live life as a person of faith. I believe in generosity as a principle and as a way as a way to live. Um, and so have I been less generous? No, not in that sense. But where I really felt some conviction on being less generous is with my supporters at Tone Junkie. And so in a nutshell, I just want to say I apologize. I think that with COVID, it sparked an urgency to create content and to get going, and an urgency to go, go, go and profile the world and profile the world. And I've started going so fast that at times I haven't left room to breathe and to say, let me just do something for you guys. Let me just do something to say thank you. And I have been working on just a little, like an upgrade to a really popular pack that a lot of people, and I just wanted to provide more value. And people have already paid for it, but I want to upgrade a Kemper pack that I just want to kind of put a new spin on. And I might do a couple of those upgrades this year, and those are going to be free to everyone who's bought it. But it also made me think, but where's the really cool amp that you're just giving away for free because you're a nice guy, because you're a generous guy, and because you want to say thank you to the community? And I used to say things like, you know what? In relationships, you shouldn't keep score. But in my relationship with my supporters and my customers and my friends, I want to keep score in this relationship here in the Tone Junkie world, because when I feel like their support is greatly outweighing what I'm doing back for them, I should feel uncomfortable with that. And I should push back and try to even up that score a bit. You want to give as much as you're being given to. Not in an unhealthy way, but it's okay to see, man, this is a ton of support. I want to say thank you. That is a score rooted in gratitude. That is a score rooted in thankfulness. And from that gratitude and thankfulness spring out generosity. Whereas the other side of the coin is the fear of scarcity, cause you to hold, to hoard, to keep from others, become defensive, to become private. And that really, for me, just made me go, wow, I have lost my way. And, I'm a number 7 on the Enneagram. I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but for me, the idea of not having enough and the idea of being deprived, and the idea and fear is something that I'm susceptible to. You might say, HW, how could that be? You're like super positive. If anything, people could accuse you of toxic positivity. But you got to understand that for me, I have clarity in crisis, because I cannot fathom, when crisis comes, I cannot fathom believing that the darkness, that the big bad monster, the fear, is as big as I fear it to be in my head. So I have to reframe my thinking to go, no, there's a pandemic. Your kids are sick. Your whole family's sick. Your dad's in the hospital. Your father-in-law's is dead, dying, and your wife can't see him. You're stuck. There's uncertainty in your business. There's your kids are home and being schooled, and it's stressing your wife out. And we feel like is the 5-year-old keeping up with reading? We don't, are we doing a good job? I can't fathom having all that weight on me. And so it's my defense. I reframe my thinking towards, but compared to the rest of human history, my wife didn't die in childbirth. And statistically, that's not unlikely, because at a lot of times in human history, the odds of perishing in childbirth were 50%. And None of my kids have polio, which at a time in human history, my grandmother had polio. She didn't end up in a wheelchair, but you know, at another time, right? And I'm not working in a coal mine, and in the course of my work could experience an accident, an act of God that kills me. I'm not like that mining town that I just watched in Netflix, The Crown, where this mining town is there and too much rainfall fell and caused this sludge. It filled up these underground caverns, and this sludge then just slowly wore away at the foundation of this mountain, and all of this coal tumbled down the mountain. And the first building it hit in the little town, little coal mining town, all the tumbling coal came down in this landslide, and it engulfed a school. And guess what? It was the middle of the day, and all the kids were in school. And 100 and something kids, all the kids in this little mining town, and the teachers, they died. And their parents, for days and days, they just dug and dug and dug. And at first they found a couple people that were trapped and they saved them. But as time went on, it became obvious. We're just looking for bodies. And there's a closure, right, in them finding their children. At some level, at some point, you accept what's happened, but you still hope. And then you seek the closure of knowing so that you can begin to grieve. And I've learned this year, it's funny, I've learned this year. I heard someone say this. When you deal with loss, grief is the last gift we give those we love. It's the last thing we can give them. To be sad, to take time to mourn. I don't mean in a way that causes us to become depressed and fall into depravity and harm ourselves. But there's a time to mourn. And it takes time. And in past traditions, there have been traditions in human history that took time to really mourn. Because you need time to gain perspective over loss, to work through loss. Not taking time causes people to feel rushed. It causes loneliness because they feel as though the whole world is moving on and they don't want to move on. Because that feels terrible and that feels harmful to the memory of the people we love. It feels disrespectful. It feels ungrateful to just forget. And sometimes the pressure is just forget and move on. But I don't know. Let me circle back here. I feel like in a way and it might have been a lot of the stresses of 2020, but I feel like in a way I lost my path a little bit here. I still made huge strides in profiling the world. I still feel like I've been a good father and a good husband, and in a lot of areas of my life, I feel like I did well and moved forward. But some part of me got left there. And I just want to go back and pick it back up because it was a good part. All right, segment 3, we're finally on to talking about guitars. That's what this podcast is sort of about. Guitars. Okay, so I bought some amps. I bought a ton of amps recently, right at the end of the year, because I realized the tax man's gonna want some taxes from me. I better spend some cash, or else so I can write off this stuff. So what I realized was I realized I went online and I was like, what other amps should I get? And I ran into a Vibraverb. And for me, the Vibraverb, it's that Stevie Ray Vaughan big 15-inch speaker amp, and it's a really cool amp. And I really have been wanting to profile it. It's one that's in the collection. See, as I've now profiled so many amps, I'm looking at these things as collections going, well, have I done every Blackface amp? Have I done every Silverface amp? Or what are the holes in the collection? I haven't really been thinking, didn't think that yet until I got here. I looked down and realized, okay, I ordered the Vibraverb, and then I said, let me get a Blackface Vibralux because we did a Silverface Vibralux, and really it was in the context of doing the the Princeton. I did the Prince tone pack, and it was the silver drip edge and the Blackface one, and it made me go, wow, these are like two different sounds, and they're cool and they're different. And then I realized, wait a minute, I almost have one of every Blackface amp. So I went out and bought a Vibrachamp, and that left me with the Vibrachamp. I have now a Vibrachamp, a Princeton, Deluxe Reverb, Pro Reverb, Vibralux, Vibraverb, a Twin, a Showman, a Bassman, and a Bandmaster. I have 10. But what I'm missing is I don't have a Super Reverb, but I did a Super Reverb before. I'm missing the Concert, the Fender Concert, which are not that expensive. They're undervalued, I think, compared to the other amps if you just want an amp for utility. And the Tremolux, the Blackface Tremolux. So I'm 3 amps away. Excuse me, I held up 5 there. 3 amps away from owning all of the Blackface Fenders from that era. Now, I'm counting the Vibrachamp as a champ. I don't feel the need to go get both versions of, Vibrachamp and champ. The vibrato's just off. So the Vibrachamp, the Princeton, it's all there. And I'm really excited about it because it made me think, what if I get the Tremolux? And then what if after I got the Tremolux, what if I go and get the Concert and I profile all this stuff? And I do a collection, the Tone Junkie Blackface collection. I'm still going to leave all the regular packs out there, and they're going to be the most exhaustive. But what if I do a broader stroke pack where I say, like, here's part of the Tone Junkie collection pack. It's all one collection. But what about these Tone Junkie collections? These tonal capsules, these buried treasures in time. You want the Blackface sound? Here's every flavor of it. 3, maybe 4 profiles from each through their appropriate speakers. Just captured for history. For the Kemper, for the QC. Done in this sort of magical way that, hey, you want to hear the 2 sounds that because look, a Vibrachamp's not going to give you a million sounds. You want to hear the 2 sounds a Vibrachamp can give you? Boom, Vibrachamp. Clean and dirty kind of, that's a Vibrachamp. It would be cleanish, about all the way up, or middle, and then all the way up. That's the most you could really get out of it. But the Princeton, here's a 3 sound the Princeton really does. Here's a Deluxe Reverb, right? And, there you start to get into, on the Pro Verb, you start to get into the Pro Reverb, you start to get into bright switches and stuff. Here's a Deluxe, here's both channels. You start to get into this thing where it's like, wow, okay. What about all 13 amps? What about all 13 amps? With 3 or 4 profiles each, maybe 5 on some of them. And you just go, here it is. Here's 55 of the sounds of the Blackface amps, all redone with the same speakers. Because, over time I've used different speakers, we'll do different speakers, but all redone with the same mics and the same mic placement. My mic placement has changed sometimes. Sometimes I've been more lately into going further back or further right on the grill cloth. Sometimes I've been, more into the Royer, the 121 over the Fathead and all that sort of thing. But there's just really like some beautiful, beautiful stuff you can do. And I just think it would be absolutely so fun, so spectacular to do it. And then it got me thinking about this dream. What if profiling the world really means I take every Blackface amp, all 13, and I profile them in that collection? And then what if I did every Tweed? Now, there's not going to be every single Tweed because they didn't have like a... I've done a Tweed Bandmaster. I've done a Tweed Bassman. I've done the 5E3 Deluxe, the Tweed Deluxe. I've done the Super. So I've done 4 Tweeds. But you got the Harvard, the Princeton. Is there a Tweed Champ? I think there is. There is. I don't think there's a Tweed Vibralux or a Tweed Vibroverb. Did the Super. There's a Tweed Twin, high and low powered. You know, is there a Tweed Showman? I don't believe so. There's not. Did the Bassman, did the Bandmaster. Is there a Tweed Tremolux? No, I don't think so. I believe that came in the Brownface era. But it made me think, well, what if I got all the Tweeds? And I did that. And then what if I got all the Brownface and all the Silverface? Right? And what if it was like, this is it? Now, I know Silverface, you can keep going and they keep changing, but what if I did, this is it? It's like, here's what CBS did in 68, 69 with the drip edge silvers. Here's what Leo did in 64, 65. Here's the Brownface stuff that Leo left Tweed and started on his way to making the modern Blackface, the quintessential Blackface amp. Because those are really, a lot of those are in-betweens. And then here's the Tweeds. Here's some early Tweeds. Now I can do all the, maybe I could do all the Tweeds eventually, but they did a lot of iterations over time, right? But a quintessential sort of the late 50s, kind of sounds. And then I've got the Vox AC10, the Vox AC15, the Vox AC30, and the Vox AC50. And man, that starts to sound like something. That starts to sound like we're really, you put those in some packs together, you redo some of them. Now, the main packs would still be the most exhaustive with more pedals and stuff. These would be more broad stroke. Man, that could be a great thing. You do similar thing with some Marshalls. You do some things with some train wrecks. And that sounds like something to do. That sounds like something to get excited about. That sounds like something to work towards. That, my friends, sounds like 2021. Can I get some applause? Aged up. No. Hey, Joe, you're having too much fun on your own podcast. I know. That starts to be something. I like that. So I think that's the goal. Truly, truly profile the world. And if I have those amps, well, then they're available on every platform in the future forever. Or at least until I'm on the other side of grace, you know what I mean? And then there will be another profiler of worlds. Yeah. I dig that. I dig that a lot. I'm HW. Thanks so much for listening to Tone Junkie Podcast. I'm back. HW out.